What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. My name is Lucas Wenzel, and today we are talking about 10 players that you should be looking to stash ahead of this weekend slate and ahead of next week's waivers as well. But before we dive into that list, if you want a chance at winning a signed Jonathan Taylor Indianapolis Colts jersey, courtesy of bettingpros.com, your place to start betting smarter and not harder, you need to subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now, comment below on this video, and that is it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to claim your prize. Kicking off our list this week is Houston Texans wide receiver Noah Brown, who is rostered in 39% of leagues. Brown has missed the last 2 weeks with a knee injury, but prior to that, he was on fire. He had back-to-back games of at least 24 fantasy points and 150 plus receiving yards. From weeks 8 to 10, he was also third in yards per route run amongst all wide receivers, second in yards after the catch, and boasted the second highest PFF receiving grade, only behind CeeDee Lamb. Now, there are plenty of mouths to feed in this wide receiver room with Tank Dell and Nico Collins alongside him, but considering Houston is throwing at a borderline top 12 rate this year, Brown should still get his in an offense that's going to continue featuring the arm of CJ Stroud. Second on our list is Samaje Perine, running back for the Denver Broncos, who's rostered in 33% of leagues. Whether you realize it or not, Perine has put up over 13.5 fantasy points in back-to-back weeks now en route to 2 top 20 weekly finishes. In week 11, he drew a whopping 7 targets and caught all of them for 60 yards. In week 12, he averaged 7.86 yards per carry on 7 totes for 55 yards and a score. The Denver Broncos offense is starting to show some signs of life as the season goes on, and if he continues to get mixed in or Javonte Williams misses any time, Perine could be an interesting stash rest of season. Up next is New York Giants rookie wide receiver Jalen Hyatt, who's rostered in only 4% of leagues. The Jalen Hyatt breakout might finally be here as he put up a career-high 109 receiving yards on 5 receptions in week 12. Hyatt was 5th amongst all wide receivers in yards per route run, he was 6th in average depth of target, and he even boasted the highest PFF receiving grade on the week. Obviously, Hyatt doesn't find himself in the most ideal situation with Tommy DeVito at quarterback, but considering he ran a route on 23 of DeVito's 33 dropbacks, there's still plenty of upside here. Yes, the Giants are on bye in week 13, but now is the time to strike on Jalen Hyatt while the iron is hot. Another rookie you should be looking to stash is Roschon Johnson, running back for the Chicago Bears, who's rostered in 22% of leagues. Now, I do realize this is another player who's on bye in week 13, but your league mates probably don't realize how involved Roschon Johnson was in week 12 against the Vikings. Johnson played a season-high 74% of the team's snaps and outsnapped teammate Khalil Herbert by 53%. Roschon dominated the short distance, long distance, and 2-minute drill snaps. His involvement in the receiving game was encouraging too, as he caught all 5 of his targets for 40 yards. With Deonta Foreman out in this game and Khalil Herbert still working back from injury, it could be possible that this was a 1-week flick, but I believe Roschon is actually the guy for the Bears moving forward, and that makes him a prime stash candidate in your leagues. Coming in next is Detroit Lions wide receiver Jameson Williams, who's rostered in 21% of leagues. We're still waiting for the week that Jameson Williams turns it on, and you were hoping to see it on Thanksgiving after the Lions got down early. That ultimately didn't happen, but it's important to note that over the last 4 games, his snaps have been increasing. In week 8 before their bye, he played 40% of the snaps. In week 10, he played 52%, played 65% in week 11, and was above 60% again in week 12. Dan Campbell has made it very clear that Jameson has to earn his stripes out on the field to earn more targets and snaps. We're potentially starting to see that come to fruition. Considering his college profile, this is a guy I would much rather be ahead of the curve on than trying to scramble to add him after his potential breakout. At this point in the season, we have to start looking ahead to the fantasy playoffs, and that's why you should stash the Packers defense and special teams unit. I know we don't talk about stashing defenses hardly ever, but if you're making a championship push, who you play at defense could be the difference maker for you on a given week. Looking at who the Packers play in weeks 14 to 17, they get the Tommy DeVito-led Giants in week 14, Tampa Bay at home in the cold week 15, the Bryce Young-led Panthers in week 16, and then the Minnesota Vikings in week 17. And if your league does play through week 18, they draw the Bears at home in Lambeau again. Now's the time to get the jump on stashing this defense that's rostered in only 16% of leagues. We're getting deep down into the stashes now as we talk about D'Ernest Johnson, running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who's rostered in 5% of leagues. Whether you realize it or not, D'Ernest Johnson has outsnapped Tank Bigsby in 3 straight weeks now, clearly making himself the backup to Travis Etienne. He even played 39% of the snaps in week 12. Johnson has also reeled in at least 28 receiving yards each of the last 3 weeks. At this point of the season, you have to make sure your handcuffs are locked in place, because if anything did happen to Travis Etienne in the closing 6 weeks, Johnson would become a top priority waiver wire add, and we want to make sure you don't lose championship aspirations by not having your handcuffs. Next on our list is Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver Jalen Guyton, who's rostered in 4% of leagues. It doesn't appear that Josh Palmer is going to be back to play in week 13, and coach Brandon Staley has said that Palmer could return this season. That doesn't necessarily spark optimism in me that Palmer will be back in the coming weeks. I'm no doctor though, but in the meantime, Jalen Guyton appears to be the wide receiver 2 in this Chargers offense. Quentin Johnston's snaps plummeted back down as Guyton took 80% of the snaps on Sunday night and drew 5 targets. He only came through with 1 catch for 4 measly yards. But prior to missing week 11, we saw Guyton catch 4 passes for 41 yards and a score. There's upside here, and as long as Josh Palmer is out, Guyton appears to be the number 2 wideout for Justin Herbert. Making our list again this week is Michael Carter, running back for the Arizona Cardinals, who's rostered in 3% of leagues. I mentioned last week that we could see Carter step into this pass-catching role for the Cardinals, and he did just that in week 12. He caught all 4 of his targets, only for 15 yards, but as the season goes on, you have to wonder when the Cardinals will just throw in the towel on a lost season. If the Cardinals have intentions of keeping James Conner around for 2024, do they ease his workload and hand some work over to Carter? Or what if James Conner misses another stretch of games to close out the season? In PPR formats, Carter is an interesting stash, especially in a deeper league. Wrapping out our list this week is New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who's rostered in 23% of leagues. Look, whether or not you believe Rodgers actually suits up again this year, it would be malpractice on my end to not recommend you stash a 4-time MVP who's preparing to face the Washington Commanders in his targeted return. Could this all just be a PR stunt that his practice window is now open? Absolutely. Could Aaron Rodgers actually come back and play this season after tearing his Achilles? I've heard crazier things in my life. With how quarterbacks have thinned out this year, you can take a chance on stashing Rodgers as he seemingly plans to return during the fantasy playoffs. Alrighty, y'all, that is all I have for you today. Remember, if you want a chance at winning a signed Jonathan Taylor Indianapolis Colts jersey, courtesy of bettingpros.com, your place to start betting smarter and not harder, you need to subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now, comment below on this video, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Might be a great holiday gift. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to come claim your prize when we announce it.